Hi, everybody. How are you doing tonight? My name is Spencer, and I am a best ball draft addict. I am here tonight, and this is my 55th dinger of my journey to try and max out the contest. And tonight, I've got a very special guest, Mr. Billy Jones from the Stacking Dingers podcast. Before I bring Billy on, I just wanted to say the schedule for everyone. So the plan is we're going to be going live on Tuesday nights and then once every weekend on Friday or Saturday, or some weekends where we do both. Now, the next show after Billy tonight is next Tuesday, and we're going to have the second half of Stacking Dingers, Matthew, on with us. And then next Saturday, a week from today, we're going to have a guest that I met on Stacking Dingers, Brad at BRDMC3 on Twitter. Brad's going to come on, and he's a big high volume drafter and going to talk some drafts with us. So without further ado, let's bring on tonight's guest, Mr. Billy Jones. Billy, how are you doing tonight, my friend? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, of course, starting off hot. Like this past episode that I did for Stacking Dingers, I was just not on my best technical game, and that's sad with someone who's like data guy. But yeah, as I said, I was trying to say, yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm doing well tonight. Um, Last year we met for the first time when you were a guest on our show, and we went deep into the player pool, and you absolutely crushed it. So I'm excited to come hang out tonight and do the same.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate it. Well, I'm really excited to have you on. So, for anyone out there who doesn't know, Billy and Matthew, aka Dark Sheep, you guys started Stacking Dingers, a YouTube channel and podcast and website, right? How many years ago now?
So I don't know if I definitely don't get credit for starting it. So the history of Stacking Dingers is we're in season three. That original season, I wasn't involved. I was a listener. I loved it. I was helping with some data on the side, or posting my own stuff, and it kind of filtered its way into it. But just as life kind of changes over time, I like message see if I can help out, and there's opportunities, and then just other people kind of drop off, and now it's me and Sheep kind of doing it back to back years. And we've kind of continued to grow our content every year, sharpening it up with what we think people find most useful. This year, we're trying to add a little bit more player takes to what people are getting as part of the content, and asking all of our guests to kind of bring something along that way because people want to hear about names, but we're also really kind of making sure like a lot of the strategy stuff is being talked about too, and ignoring some. Previously, we had some general baseball chats, and it doesn't. It's awesome to have, but sometimes it's not necessarily important for our game. So, I think now we've like really hit our stride, and we're really producing some like quality content or valuable content is a better way to put it.
Yeah, well, buddy, I completely agree. I love the videos you guys have been putting out. And like you said, you're a big data guy. And I was watching the first video you put out of the season, the Get the Year Started, about a month or maybe 2 months ago. It was a while back. Was it the beginning of December? Um, Regardless, I was watching that video and you were talking about something in there that was a big takeaway for me. And I'll be honest, for me, it was some really positive confirmation bias because I had kind of already been talking to Duggar about what our strategies were going to be whenever Underdog launched and like the type of builds we were going to have this year. And I'd really settled on 776 being the main build that I was going to hammer. Obviously, change things up, but that being the main one. And then seeing your image and talking about builds. So I wanted to kind of bring that on and show this to people. Just anyone can watch the full video and hear him talk about everything. But Billy, why don't you talk about this real quick? Kind of what this is here that you put together.
Yeah, so this is a the chart that I use to analyze just how what people have been doing historically and what's worked. So this is the full draft structure, as we are commonly hear it as pitcher, infielder, outfielder. How frequently teams were doing it, and how well did it help you get to the playoffs? I try to focus most of my like analysis on at least like like getting to the playoffs, I really do feel like scoping into like just the playoff weeks becomes like really a small sample. So I think this at least helps me get more bullets into the randomness that happens in the playoffs. But anywho, so yeah, what you're seeing here is how frequently teams were doing what they were doing and then how well they were working. And what this chart is showing you is across a full draft, the most um, commonly built teams are 767 and 776. We do see a little bit of usage in 677s, 866, and so on. But then also what it tells you is that what is the most has been the most productive, and there really only are like in my mind like 4.5 functional builds.
Yeah,
Everything else is kind of out not don't do it. And that's a lot of what I also think of this too is like these charts kind of tell you what's like not to be like what not to do as much as it is what you need to do
sure.
because it eliminates the bad, and so that's what this is doing on a total draft kind of perspective. I do think that and we're talking about the full draft structure right here because it's the easiest to kind of like understand. We think about our structures and like what did we get to at the end across the full 20 rounds. That being said, like I find when I cut it up by like different points in the draft, I find a lot of insights from that. So like my favorite takeaway is like what the same version of this chart, but like for the first 6 rounds, and that's available in our Discord, and which you said previously we talked about in our show. But and you get some like really cool stuff out of this when like you kind of understand like what people are doing, so where you can gain leverage, and then what's the successful routes. So I'm done with my rambling now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thank you. I appreciate it. That you broke that down perfectly. And I loved it. And I just wanted to share this with everyone, let people see, because this just is just a taste of some of the information that you can get over there with Stacking Dingers. So Billy, I'll get this off here and let me get the uh, draft board moved up here, and then we will get us joined in. Duggar, if you're in the chat, would you jump in and tell us how many people are in the lobby?
Waiting for two.
Waiting for two. Did you just see? Okay, so
Yeah.
let's back out of there and or Duggar, yeah. Let's wait and let's give it just a little bit.
Why?
We'll give it just another minute or two for it to fill, and then we'll try and get in a fresh one.
Why don't we just jump in this one?
Well, you said there's two more to fill.
Yeah.
Well, if it's two, I want the people in the chat to be able to jump in with us.
Fair.
So yeah, we'll
I
give
just
it
like
just a
don't
minute.
wait. No patience on my side.
Hey, no, that's all right. That's understandable. So it shouldn't take that long here. But I'll ask you this while we're waiting. So this is my 55th. Which number dinger is this for you?
25.
25. Nice. So what's your plan this year? Are you looking at trying to get to the 150? You just want to try to get to any certain number, or kind of go along and see how it goes?
Um, that's a good question. So, I mean, I have within the bankroll to get to 150. I would rather actually like draft 100 and have some of these other contests where I'm going to play if they kind of drop something that's interesting. I'm not like, overly excited about the Eliminator, and I'm not going to throw dollars at the bunt. So if they do something that's a little more high stakes, or like a $50, like what was it, Frozen Rope last year, or the solo shot or something like that, that would be interesting to me. But around 100 last year, I got to 89, and it was particularly annoying that I like didn't get a round number. And I just kind of like it's just kind of missed it because life gets busy, right? And so I'm trying to get to around 100, and then I'm at 25 net, or going to be at 25, so I'm just ahead of the like fill rate, and that's fine by me. I'm going to try to front load a bunch and then pause through like the dead zone of the season, and then once spring training hits, I'm going to jam a bunch more in.
Oh man, absolutely. And the WBC, that's going to have a lot of hype too when that starts. Um, So Jeremy says, he's in the chat. He says, I've got 34 in. I did 100 last year, but probably 150 this year. So he's on a quest. I did 100 last year too. So I finished at that even round number. Like you were saying, you didn't. Like I pushed for it, and I made sure I wanted to get to that number before it filled, because I wanted to look at an even number to know like my advance rates. I had 23 teams advance. So right at that 23%. And then after that, I only had 2 make it the next week, and then I had 1 make the final week. But then it faltered out.
Yeah, my finals team wasn't. They had nothing impactful going on with it. Um, yeah, I had a similar story. I had like a good, not amazing advance rates last year, but not like the previous year, which it kind of went. I had like kind of bad advance rates. I think fell into a bunch of Brent Rooker as my late outfield pick, and that just like worked. And I'm like,
Yep.
it's one thing. And so last year I was like, who can I like fall into? And I made the decision it was going to be like a late infielder because I just didn't see the outfield value. And I had a bunch of Cal Raleigh, which was great, but like he was my second or third highest owned infielder. My highest owned infielder was Michael Tolia because I thought that there was like a real ceiling there that did not work very well.
Man,
Still sitting
I
at 10
know.
out of 12. Do you want to just jump in that one? Like we'll fill it. Then
All
you and
right.
I.
Let's go. Let's go ahead and do it. So we'll do countdown in 3, 2, 1, enter. One more to start.
That'll be good.
There we go.
Yeah.
Draft
Awesome.
starts soon.
Yeah, great. I'm glad you didn't wait because if you're gonna try to convince me to get into a second one tonight, like a 30-minute wait for this to fill would not be.
You're ready to get going. Yeah, no
I'm ready to
problem.
get going. But I'm excited. Okay, so where are you? You're 3.
So I got
I'm
pick
6.
3.
Okay.
Yeah, you got 6. Let's see. So I see Jeremy says pick 2.
Well, 3 and 6 is good for us to have a conversation because the end of the board, we'll have time to chat through like stuff, but then also we're not like monopolizing each other. Yeah. Um,
Yep. This is my back-to-back pick 3. I got pick 3 last night in the stream I did with Bloomfield. So let's see how pick 3 goes tonight. Last night I was able to do a Soto Lindor start. I'd be happy to do that again.
so I'm trying to figure out how to do this so I typically have my own like built data tools that I use that are like on one side of my screen and the draft on the other side, and I just kind of do it. Not a crunch numbers, but I have like stuff that I'm changing as we go along. Not as easy to do while streaming.
Right. Well, hey, you know what? This will be a chore, or challenge, but you got this, buddy. I believe in you.
This.
So I see Duggar says he missed out. Sorry, Duggar. And TDK missed out on this one. Sorry, guys. Maybe if you're still around and we jump in a second one when this fills, we can do that. We'll see at the end of this draft. Jeremy says, I broke my 4 draft streak of pick 6. Billy, you stole Jeremy's 4 draft streak of pick 6.
I have, so this is my only, this is my only second pick 6, but I have like a boatload of 8 right now. I know my spread. It's like a decent at the front of the board. I have like 1s and 2s and 3s I'm happy with. At or above right there, but then like everything else is pick 8, and it's like so annoying. And I have faith that it'll swing around at some point. I just gotta like have patience. I can try to kind of build different iterations of the same teams, or same starts. Yeah.
Well, I see an interesting thing you started this out is with Kyle Tucker versus Bobby Witt or Kyle Schwarber. Is that something that you've been doing this whole time or something that you've adjusted to since you went to the Dodgers?
Definitely didn't start out this way, but I do think since he's been with the Dodgers, like I've teased the idea of like, does he belong ahead of Corbin Carroll and therefore like ahead of Bobby Witt and Schwarber? Like I do think Acuna also should be belonging up. So I don't know. I'm very high on Kyle Tucker this year. He's set up for a ton of success, um, and so I kind of want to jump all over that.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt he's in the almost. Is there a better situation? I don't think so. I think he's in the best situation he could have. Maybe Toronto. You could say maybe he would have been in a similar spot had he gone there. But man, the Dodgers, what a great spot for him to land for a fantasy. Um, I personally, I've still been going Schwarber, but I've been going Kyle Tucker next. So, but I think that you could swap them either way. But overall,
Yeah, and
I don't know. I
I
guess I just haven't kind of got fully Tucker past Schwarber in my mind yet.
so that's how I like will draft it too because I do want enough Schwarber in my portfolio. I don't want to be underweight him, but I did it on this stream just like to help with the talking point, honestly, because my personal position is that I have him over. But it's not how I. Dude,
Do it
that's why
every
like
time.
it's like drafting off rankings. It's not real. Um, yeah, but hold up, I don't know if I gotta make a pick.
Yep, you are up, sir.
I think this one's actually pretty easy for me. Um, this is another like guy who I ranked ahead of ADP, who I think is going to be a first round pick next year. Like, not even a question.
I'm right there with you. I am right there with you. So now it's my pick. Let me look and see who I want to get here. Well, I talked about doing the Soto Lindor last night. I might as well do Soto Lindor again. Let's keep that stack going. Um, so my thing with Kurtz is I've been since the beginning of the draft season, I've been weighing in my mind Nick Kurtz versus Vlad Jr. Which one, as far as the first baseman, and I'm talking about for period, for Roto, for anything, because as good as Vlad is, I mean, I think Nick Kurtz is real and he's special. I mean, his bat is just incredible. Now we've come back around to me. And let's see here. So I'm looking at, I like, I've talked about, I like to get a good pitcher. I definitely like Crochet. I may end up doing that. Um, I'm not that into picking Cal Raleigh, but I've not done it that often. This is a bit of a fall, which isn't bad. But I'm going to stick with what I like to do and build with, and that's Crochet, because I like to do like maybe two pitchers in the top 10 rounds. And if I have like one dependable ace at the top, it just makes me feel better. And when I can do it in round 3, I prefer that to round 2.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying right there. I mean, in general, my draft style is to not draft pitching in this range. It's not that I'm not going to do it. It's that as of today is January 31st. Zero of these guys have thrown bullpens yet this off season. Like, well, official bullpens with the team, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that I'm just not going to get caught with this year's Garrett Cole, who's a complete landmine in the second or third round as a pitcher. Um,
Oh, I get it.
it's
Yep.
early, so I will do it. I'm actually going to jam in a lot of those guys later in the draft window when their price is relatively the same, but the risk is decreased materially. Um, but yeah, it's just not now. I think that one thing this is something I haven't actually talked about this with anyone is that I think the pitching market is like that you need to be doing what I'm saying because as pitchers get hurt or become less like the guy or viable, we're gonna have late round guys that we don't that kind of become like uninspiring late, or they become rush up the board big time when they do well in spring training. That like it just becomes sparser. That you want to actually be drafting less pitchers as you get closer to the draft because it's just like it's not as easy of a market to attack. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it does. And I think it's a good point. I think for me, one of my main differences with what you're saying is I'm making an exception for these big three, right? Scooble, Skeens, Crochet. I think that I personally, I'm not trying to draft with fear, and I'm not loading up on just one of them. I'm not taking, it's not like, oh, Garrett Cole is the guy at the top and I'm hammering him every time I want a top pitcher. When I want a top pitcher, I'm letting them fall to me and taking one of these three guys. So between the three of them, I have them all around like the 18% range. So that's why I feel more confident with doing it with these guys early. But your point is 100% valid. And I think it's a very good point because pitching is the most volatile thing. They are what get hurt the most often, period, every year. And it's also what we see. We obviously, I think that some of the studs at the top can be an exception, but it's also where we see guys' value drastically change and decrease or increase from year to year. So there's not as much, dependability on the stock that you're taking the player in like there is with a lot of hitters. You are up, sir.
Yeah. I mean, so I love kind of building the Dodgers right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't know because like the thought. I mean, as we already kind of talked about, the top offense is going to be insane. They also don't really like line up perfectly to do it. You do need to either like something to fall in your favor or you need to pull them up. Like you can get two of them cleanly. To get three of them is really tough. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of like trying to make that happen.
Man, I had a team earlier in the year. This is before value changed, where I had an Otani team, and then here at pick one, of course, and then at the 4-5, I got Betts and Freeman at the 4-5
That's so
together.
sweet.
That was super nice, and it never happens again. Like used to, where I could take Otani and then get Nick Kurtz and Brent Rooker at the 2-3 swing. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what I mean. Drafting in the bullpen, I thought was like there's a ton of value right at the front of it, and then it just really kind of the ADPs didn't shift like materially after that. Um, so like I had a ton of fun drafting going in the bullpen. I think that there was a ton of mispricing to attack. I feel like the board is like not so bad right now. I think there's a lot of like there's not a ton of like wildly mispriced players.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that the market is pretty darn sharp. I mean, especially here on Underdog, where things change a lot, and obviously there are things I disagree with, but for the most part, I think that it's really a good draft board to choose from, where you don't have to deviate through the draft and go down too far most of the time, to be able to, if you're just really trying to build the best lineup possible. Now, when you're stacking, sometimes you'll dip, right?
Yeah.
But speaking of stacking, what are you looking at doing here, sir?
So kind of like what looking at drafting players I think are just like the best picks. And I really like Jerry's profile this year. Another team that I'm like particularly targeting is the Braves right now. One outside of being just like a Braves fan growing up in Atlanta in the era of like Maddox, Smoltz, Glavine into Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones. Like there's just like awesome era of baseball to grow up having them as the team that you're rooting for.
And now
So
all those names you just listed are now all Hall of Famers with Andrew Jones getting in there.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, John Smoltz, like it was just like I don't know, it was such a great time to watch baseball for me. Atlanta.
Fred McGriff, that's another one who's a Hall of Famer that was on that team. Dave
Yeah,
Justice, not a Hall of Famer, but a stud.
yeah, and I'm like a little younger than that, so like my some of my favorite players were like I thought Rafael Furcal at shortstop was a ton, like he's electric. His arm could just get through it through someone's glove. He had such a cannon. And like who else? I think like I even love like kind of the weirder players. I don't know if you want to pull a name like Julio Franco. He had this outrageous swing.
Oh
I don't
yeah,
know.
oh yeah.
Yeah,
Well, Julio Franco, I mean, he's still to this day. I saw a video just the other day. He's 67 years old and he's still taking swings with the same batting stance and everything. It was great.
yeah. If you're not familiar with Julio Franco, go pull up his YouTube like on the side right now. He has the most preposterous batting stance. Like,
But
I
it was successful.
it worked. It worked. Um,
So while you're picking here, yeah, TDK says Julio Franco, an all-time OG. Oh yeah. Jeremy said, "Sorry about Hernandez. Need an outfield only one I care for." Oh, because he stole Teoscar from your potential stack piece there. And then earlier, Jeremy said, "Schemes took schemes in the third. We'll try it. Normally fades pitching until the sixth or seventh." Which, yeah, that's what I think is the normal thing. And like what Billy was saying, Jeremy, is normally fading pitcher to the sixth or seventh.
I
And then
think
let's
with
see.
this like the schemes stuff, I think it's actually totally fine. I feel like that one with like I feel like a lot of like this back of the second slash early third through like the fifth, sixth round is very flat in terms of production. There's out obviously infield and has is better than outfield, but I feel like they're very replaceable. So if you're gonna want to do one of those early pitchers, you kind of it's not that bad to swap them in. You just got to be conscious of not doing like two or three of them. And if you're going to do two or three of them, then as you said it earlier, you got to really wait, like
Really
bar,
wait then.
barbell it, like have your two
Mhm.
studs, and then just forget the position exists.
So the way I like to think of it is if I do like two studs early, then I'm going to do an 8 pitcher build and I'm going to push it and take a lot of pitchers at the end and try to bulk it after those studs. One thing you said a little bit earlier, you were talking about rankings and how rankings when you're drafting isn't really a thing. And personally, I agree. That's with rankings. I mean, I make rankings and myself and have for at this point for decades. But whenever I'm drafting, my rankings they matter for me because it's like this is generally how I like players and where I would put them, but that's not how I'm going to draft because I want to draft different teams and have different builds, and depending on who goes where and what position, you're going to take people that you wouldn't necessarily have ranked higher, but you're going to take them higher, and that's just how I feel about rankings in general. Is I think they're really good in practice. They're really good to have rankings in your mind, but not something that you have to when you're at the draft table. Not something that you have to literally just go down and pick off of a list. And if you do, well, I would suggest against it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have mine loaded in to tell me like who I like particularly highly ranked. I'm actually like working on something on the site. It is not ready to go yet, so and I don't even know how I'll publish it when I do publish it, if I even decide to publish it. But what I'm going to create is like target exposures that and so that I can from my target. So essentially, the way that this the concept is like I set someone as like a 30% target exposure, and I know I'm going to draft 150 teams. So I know that from that, like I could, okay, this is the amount of player times I'm going to draft him, like that based on just that simple math. And then you've drafted say 25 teams at that point. You so you can kind of get to like where, and you have a 50% exposure. Your exposure left for the remainder of your drafts isn't actually 30% anymore. It's reduced because you're overexposed. So like I want to create a tool that like you set your target exposures and then you input your actual drafts that you've done. And then from there, it'll tell you like if you're in like a target position slightly ahead of ADP, at ADP, slightly behind ADP, complete fade, and then therefore, so it's like actually functionally telling you how to go draft it based on what your goal is. I think that's like a way better way to go about these rankings and like setting yourself up for like a planning rather than just like flat rankings. But it's just
That's
not
an
ready.
awesome idea. No, I
It's just
love
not ready
that.
yet.
That is a really good idea. Well, when you get that, if and when you get that ready,
You'll be someone who's willing to test it out.
I will 100% be a test subject. Yes, sir. So yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Now, when you're talking about like you're talking about making this, how like through a spreadsheet? Is that how you would do it, or how
Yeah,
would you go
I
about
think
doing
so.
that?
Well, yeah, I mean, like, so I'm pretty good with like a bunch of different data tools. I mean, anytime I mock something up, Excel is just so flexible that I would probably just build it there. Um, and then like if you could build it into a Google Sheet or something like that, or you could build even like a more elegant tool.
Okay.
Um, but I don't know. I think that since it is primarily about like personal use, I would probably just build it locally. Like I have my own essential best ball explorer that I have on my computer, Power BI dashboard that's like very interactive. I can roll it over to any sport, um, and that way I have it for like if I want to draft hockey, and I can just kind of do it. So
Do you
yeah,
draft hockey?
I have in the past. Um, I honestly, I don't know the sport well enough. I have like a friend who's pretty sharp with it, so I've like collaborated with him, but never, not like consistently. No.
So I was just wondering if you just were saying it, or if you're like actually into hockey and drafted. Because I literally know no one, Billy, who drafts hockey. So that's just why I thought it was interesting. Like, oh, someone who drafts hockey. That's very, because I know nothing other than the Mighty Ducks. I know nothing about hockey, so so I know nothing.
It's all. I mean, so I think just in it. So you and I draft the similar like arena of sports, football and baseball,
Yeah,
and you would agree that the baseball space is like there's bigger edges just because like there's not a ton of data stuff out there, and there's no best ball manifesto for it, um, and so like there's more edges to be had, and like that's what like hockey and golf and all these other spaces too. You just have to like put in your own work. So I'm going to try to do more of that going forward, but again, it takes effort.
yeah. Oh,
To
for
do
sure.
it. You got to grind those edges.
TDK in the chat says, "Hey, build your tools, bro." And TDK90, he is a phenomenal builder of tools. If you have not seen him, Billy, or anyone out there, go check out his YouTube channel at TDK90 Men. Um, it's incredible the sheets that he has made for drafting baseball teams. They're way too much than I could even try to say, but TDK, I love those sheets. And Duggar chimed in and said flying V. So he knows. So who did you pick? I missed your pick when you were talking. Oh, Bradish, love it.
Hmm.
Love the Bradish pick. I actually am in a draft champions that I just started. Do you ever draft on the NFBC, Billy?
No, I think I would enjoy it just because it's a different game to play.
Oh man,
Um,
you should. You
so I
you
like
totally should.
I kind of rejected I played traditional fantasy baseball, call it like the roto style where you have to pay attention weekly or daily, and I find that to be such a grind that I just kind of until I started playing best ball for football, I was just completely out on fantasy baseball, and then started playing this format. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like I can do the baseball stuff. I played baseball in college, so like this is stuff that I can actually have like deeper conversations about. Um, but I don't have to like buried in the I don't know like in just the labor of what it is to be successful at it. This is like the perfect sport for me. So that's like kind of how I got into this. I know that there's formats that don't require like constant like um, monitoring of it, so
Right.
that's what I would want to do.
Well, So the draft champions, I know it's about. Oh, it's your pick right now. I'll let you go ahead and. What are you looking at? What position?
Um,
There it is, T.J. Friedel.
yeah,
So
I like
that's a.
TJ Friedel a lot this year. In
I'm going to
general,
call him the
yeah.
stacking dinger special, T.J. Friedel,
Why do you say that?
because I always see Matthew draft him.
Yeah, well, I think so. I'm not sure that we've had a conversation about it, him and I. But I like drafting good like hitting locations. It's what gets me in trouble for drafting a lot of Rockies last year, but they weren't even like as bad, like as atrocious of a team as they were last year. They weren't entirely unfunctional. It's not good grammar, but like you know what I mean.
I
They were
do.
they had their uses. Um, so I think drafting Cincinnati, drafting Colorado, um,
Miami,
well,
Chicago, White
um,
Sox.
the Athletics, like there's certain ballparks which are like very advantageous to go for.
The Athletics for sure.
Yeah, and I also like with Friedel, it is a window of the draft where you just can get complete the drop off happens, and so five through this point is essential for me. And in a streamed draft, particularly. Honestly, like I'm a little annoyed. I think I should have had one more at this point, but um, it's okay. I do like Brian Substack, so I don't know how I would have done
So Jeremy says loves the Reds. That's his squad. And he's got a lot of Bradish. He used to play NFFC and NFBC, but Underdog and DK only now. So, what I will tell you, this is what I was about to say, and why I was asking about the NFBC if you play there. So, there are some formats that I do think you would love. In particular, I'm going to probably try and get you into next year into doing at least one gladiator team, because what gladiators are, it's my favorite format to draft because it combines both my love of deep drafts where you're drafting the by positions and it's a roto, but there's no bench, there's no pickups. So the whole aspect of gladiator is you draft 23 rounds, 14 hitters, 9 pitchers, and that's it. No, and then that's it. And then you just sit back and wait and you just see how things play out and you see where you finish. And it's an overall tournament with a $10,000 grand prize. And um, it's a really awesome format. And then they also have what I'm doing right now. Me and TDK are actually in the same league, drafting right next to each other, doing a draft champions. And what those are, there it's a bit another big tournament. Draft champions are 50 round, 15 teams, but there's no pickups. So you do set a lineup, but only for Monday, for the week, for pitching, and then hitters you can change for the weekend. Therefore, like if you're into platoon guys, you know what I mean? Like you could work people in and out hitting wise for a weekend matchup. You know, if you've got a lefty versus 3 righties, you want to get in there, for instance. But pitching is just once a week. So there's not a lot of work with draft champions in season management wise. It's just kind of making sure you've got an active starting roster. But the drafts are super fun. I really love them. And this is my first one of the year that I just joined. And I'll probably end up doing 2, maybe 3. But I don't like to join leagues that I have to actually make pickups, do fab, put a bunch of time in week to week. And why? Because during the baseball season, I'm drafting football teams,
yeah.
and I'm in my home leagues. So I just don't want to be spending a ton of time with fantasy baseball that I'm doing in winter drafts other than just the DCs for me. Only going to be in one league that's a fab league where you make pickups. And it's an auction. It's the Bubba and the Boom auction league that I'm going to do, which I'm really looking forward to because auctions are a great time, Billy. Have you ever done an auction draft?
Not for baseball, but for football, I
But
have.
you have for football?
Yeah, it's tough. It's because it's just a very different game. Like
Completely different.
you
It's
draft
a
a million teams in a snake style, and then you do this one. It's just like the order of the way the picks go is never the same. It's like the computer's gonna do it. It's just so different. I do want to
yeah.
mention that like I I just have to like commit to doing one of these NFBC drafts. I like listen to. I mean, obviously everyone listens to what's it, Weights and Barrels. I feel like they are like the market maker for fantasy baseball. Is just like the pitching guy.
Hmm.
Um, so that from listening to them, it, tell me I could be completely off base here, but I feel like those leagues and the energy I get out of that podcast is that people play it like a lot more conservatively than they should, and there's a lot like because you're still gonna take more often than not take an L in your league, so like you should try to like win, and that even if you just win your league or you play a couple leagues, you're not going to be breaking even. You gotta like do well in the overall to do make any real money. So like I feel like a lot of teams are playing for too much floor. Is that like a fair analysis from someone who's not actually playing but just hears people who talk about it play?
That's extremely fair analysis. I'll tell you, it's one of the main reasons why for myself I have switched over to being a primarily best ball underdog draft. I haven't done DraftKings yet, although I know that Sheep went on last night and did a DraftKings stream over on Stacking Dingers, and so I've thought about jumping in and doing some DraftKings and checking that out. We probably will look at doing that at some point in February.
What's
But
the cost? Question: What's the cost on those tournaments that you were talking about?
so the gladiators are $50.
That's like not too
And
bad.
but when you're looking at draft champions, they start at 150. So basically, if you think of it from there's two ways to think about it, Billy, and that's when you do an individual league of a draft champions and you're in a 15 team league, it costs you $150, but it's $1,000 for winning first place of the league. So all you have to do is win first out of 15 to turn 150 into 1,000. So right there, and so like the gladiators, yeah, it's an overall tournament, but out of your 15 team league, if you win first place in a gladiator, that's $650. So you see what I mean? And like you can think of it one of two ways. You can think of it as you're drafting conservative, like a lot of people do, because they're just trying to win their league. They're not trying to win a big overall tournament, but the overall tournament is also a factor in the things like draft champions and gladiators, for instance. So you kind of have that extra incentive. And someone like me in gladiators, I'm I'm not the highest volume drafter in gladiator, but I'm one of, and I have been since its existence. And so I will be more risky, kind of like I'm easily willing to do here on Underdog. Which, speaking of, I really want to take Connor Griffin right now, talking about embracing the risk,
But
because
like,
I
I'm
I
gonna push
did
back here on
only
this.
have one of
I
him.
want to push back on this thinking on the so $150 and you return 1,000, right? So you're expected to do that, but if you think 1 in 15 years, so you're going to be taking it's like that. If you're playing to win your league and not playing to like maximize for the overall, your expectation is to lose money long term.
You're right. You are 100% right. It is,
And
and
I think that's really, I think at the cost, so you can't get a lot of bullets down. Plus the it makes it really tough because like you need to play high risk to make it worth it, and that means that you're likely to get crushed, and you're not likely to be in it later in the season. Probably meaning you're giving up. I don't know. I don't know. I think it is tricky, but I do think that there is like a very serious, real flaw with I'm going to win $1,000 my 1 in 15. Um, Gets it.
see,
Yeah.
one thing I do want to say, your thought process is completely right. And for someone like you, um, why to not do them is exactly what you just described. From a cost and upside portfolio, you are at such a better chance to have a return on your investment, or a very high return, here on Underdog. Like, um, me and you, we both, just this last year in football in the same tournament, we both finished top 10. And it was a good payout for both of us, but both of our payouts could have been a whole lot more if Puka Nakua would have just scored had one or two more catches, and we would have won a lot more money. And that's not, you're not going to get that same, you're not going to get that thrill like you do with this over there. Really, over there, the way I think that the majority of people are, it's more about the love of fantasy baseball, one. And like you were saying, you really, like, you don't personally have a specific love for fantasy baseball, in the sense of, like, you are more of a football guy who's come over to baseball because you see a market that you can take advantage of, right? That's basically what.
I disagree with that. I am a baseball
No.
guy. I played college baseball. There are names on this draft board that I played with in high school. So I
Oh,
push
nice.
back on that. I push back on that. I
Well,
think
I
that
just mean from what you were saying
I
earlier,
think
how
fantasy baseball is not in its traditional form, is not an inviting thing. It's too laborious to do. So like that's why I'm like I don't think I'm like a traditional fantasy baseballist. I think what's
and
really tough about fantasy football or fantasy baseball is there is no like the only way you can play is in like in the way that people think about playing it, the or roto style, like with categories, is on a tournament on like a place like that. Like what other medium is there to do that? Like in a bigger tournament, like professionally.
there, yeah, there's a couple, but none that I do. Like Fantrax does. um I know there's a couple other places that people do it on, but there's NFBC is really the main one. um but see, there's also, for people that are, really wanting to invest more, where if you want to put more money up, but then, like, really reduce your amount of competition for a very high payback. Like Jeremy says, he used to do a $2,500 or 5K auction on NFBC. So, like, like, there are really high, like, there are high stakes room. It's, you know what I mean? There are people who are putting up a lot of money for a little room to try and beat that competition, and get a lot back with not a lot of odds, like, how we're going against 80,000 entries into this tournament. So it's really on the person on there. But what everything that I'm saying and that we've talked about, this is exactly why I have grown to love best ball so much, and why I love doing it so much, is because it is such a more enjoyable format to draft. You know, like, it's just so much fun sitting and drafting these teams all the time. And they fill all the time. And like for instance, my draft champion that I'm talking about, it's a 2 hour per pick league. So, like today I picked this morning, and then since this morning I haven't picked again. Oh, did I get my person in my queue? I did. Whoo, because my thing just glitched on me. I got my Okamoto in there. But you said you played college baseball. Where'd you play at?
University of Massachusetts, so like UMass. I grew up in Georgia, as I said, outside of Atlanta. Um, and I don't know if I played for like East Cal baseball, which is just one of the better like high school baseball summer programs. And this is like that's where I said I'm going to play with and against a bunch of guys on this list. So quite literally Zach Wheeler, Gainesby Swanson, like those are names that were a part of the same program as I was growing up. So it was just like interesting to like walk around the same like park as them. It's obviously a big program, many different teams kind of coming out of there, but it is really interesting to see a lot of the people that you like played against um, make it to like to the show, right? It was
Oh,
like, and it's like
absolutely.
I remember when we were 14 years old and blah blah blah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I sucked at baseball. I loved baseball, but I sucked. I wasn't good enough to even make my high school team. So I wasn't a player. But what position did you play? Did you say that or I miss it?
I was a catcher.
You're a
Um,
catcher? Okay.
yeah, and
Nice.
I played in college, so it was pretty good. And really good on, really good arm. Like I wish like I had learned how to hit in this modern like world, um, rather than like the way that we were taught back in the day. I think that would have been like honestly like I think I do swing the way that they do now, just naturally, like not like kind of like turning the barrel backwards, but the just like mentality of just like going and taking like absolute hacks, and trying to hit with more aggression rather than kind of like spraying all over the field. I think I would have been better, than what kind of it was. But no, I was like a really good defensive catcher that got by offensively. Someone you probably wouldn't be drafting.
You're
A non,
You're Pedro Pages from the Cardinals. That's
yeah, doesn't run, doesn't was a great defender, um, but yeah, no.
that's
But I
great.
loved it.
Well, that's awesome, bro. TDK says, I see you're on Barger now. Is that value or speculation? The Barger pick, two things. One, I'm completely good with taking a platoon guy late where he could have multi homers in a weekend, like I think Barger can. But also, it was a stack. So it was my third Blue Jay. So now I kind of have a little Blue Jays thing, which I kind of like to do. And TK11 says, Patrick Bailey, you stud.
I wish, right? Like that's like in my brain where it was, but like that's me romanticizing my own like 17-year-old self.
I bet you I could throw a football over the mountains over there.
Back in my day, yeah. I like to refer to myself as like a past tense athlete. Not now I'm a father.
And life comes at you quick, don't
It
it?
does, yeah.
So I'm coming up here on round 18. Who did you just take? I missed it. Ivan Herrera?
Yeah, and
Yep,
I'm
that's
now done with hitting. And this I need to actually like make a more conscious effort to draft some like scroll backs because I my typical drafting is doing what I'm doing right now, is saving those last two picks for pitcher. Um, which means I'm going to be kind of clicking the same names, even if I do think they are by far the better clicks at this point. I do need to make a conscious effort to not have like 30% the two guys I'm going to click at this.
so I think it's very interesting what you just said. So you think in the majority of your drafts, you're taking pitcher in the last two rounds. I find this fascinating because I don't think that there is an exact right answer, and it's really based off of people's opinions of the player pool here. But between pitcher or infield, so you like to wait and take different pitchers at the end. See, I like to wait and take different infielders at the end. But whenever I was reviewing my first 50 drafts, one thing whenever I was doing that was I noticed, man, what I have been doing, I have been taking a lot of the same group of pitchers, and I want to open myself up to actually taking some different names at the end in some of my drafts moving forward because yeah, there is a lot as you with pitcher as you go down. There's going to be a lot of these names that are going to hit big. One of my issues why I lean with infield is because I feel more I feel more dependable that these final two round infielder names, I feel better about them being successful or being maybe less volatile than the pitchers, but the pitchers maybe having the bigger upside. Would you agree with that?
Um, I don't. So you're saying the pitchers at this point are bigger upside?
But more risky than the infielders at this point.
Yeah, I think that's potential. That's maybe a fair way to put it. I don't. I think that at the I don't see. I don't even think of it as like that. I think of it as more that like infielders that I want in the playoff rounds. I want them to be be impactful. And at this point in the draft, the and maybe it's just a different way of stating what you're saying is I don't see a ton of like impactful infielders. Obviously, they exist in anything in a week, like enough someone can run across enough volume. I'm just saying that like I want my infielders to come from the cohort that is a little bit earlier. That and I it's why like I have to end up pushing pitcher a bunch is because I can't miss on outfield and I'm trying to get more impactful infielders. So therefore pitching has to lag and I just push it late. Um, so like that's kind of where my head is thinking. Um, it's more of who I want from the earlier stage, and I want the guys with the juice. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think that's an awesome answer. See, and I guess that's just where the way you look at these players can differentiate because I do see, and this is just just the way I look at these names. I do see these names as being guys that I do want in the playoffs that can make a difference. Like just going through, like Muncy, Polanco, Royce Lewis, Alec Burleson, Alec Boehm, Carl, maybe even someone like Carlos Correa. Now there are a lot of here that down here that won't work, but I just think there's so many of these names down here at the infield glob. Now there is even more pitching names. It's just I feel that like for instance, Luis Morales,
But I'm gonna pause
I
real
think
quick.
he's go ahead.
I for an infielder to make it like to be impactful is like you have to be they have to put up big numbers, right? For a pitcher to be impactful, you don't have to put up that much. You just get you run into two starts, or like you kind of just have like some big strikeouts, right? Like because the rest of your team is, and you can, or even better said, you can get away with a mediocre pitching score. But I think and move through the entire round, the entire draft. Like except for the finals, you need to make money in the finals. You're gonna have to do. I'm sorry. Um,
I think that's a great point, Billy. I do. Because yeah, you're right, and I do think that a lot of these hitters do have that top
they'll like hit your
upside
they'll
potential.
hit your lineup, right? But like
But I see what you're saying, how you don't have to have that necessary, the pitcher doesn't have to be great all year. He has to be great at the right time and be lined up for multi starts. So I
and
do
just be
think
like good enough at the right time.
yeah,
Like
I think that is a good point.
whereas your hitters
Well said.
have to be great at the right time, your pitchers have to be good enough at the right time. Is the way I see it.
And with this last pick of mine, let's go ahead and get my final stack piece with the Mets, which gives me 3 of them. Jorge Polanco, because again, like I do think Jorge Polanco, for instance, could be a really good bat here in this final round. It's the same with Max Muncy, but these guys are also, they could be nothing, right? Yeah, like they literally can be nothing, and we've seen them be hurt. They're older. They have their downsides for sure. So yeah, this is a big takeaway from me. I really appreciate that convo. I do for sure want to start mixing. I've already, like I said, I've already gone through in my head knowing I need to start taking some more of these later pitching names. But you've really kind of hammered that in my mind now, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to take that takeaway from this and actually try to apply that in some of these moving forward. So thank you, Billy.
Of course.
And Jeremy says, this is maybe my worst draft I've had. TDK says pitchers can hit those matchups easier. So he's right there with you. So
Yeah,
one thing,
Jeremy, welcome to the jungle.
welcome to the jungle. That's right. So one thing that I figured we could do, Billy, do you want to jump in a second one? Are you feeling up for it?
Yeah, how many are we waiting on? Let's see where we're at, and if it's like a long wait, then probably not. But if it's quick,
Let's see.
We'll do it.
2 more. I just joined. 2 more. So while you get joined in here, let's pull up and let's take a look at Jeremy's team real quick. He did a 6-7-6 build. So he did the Skeens thing in round 3, like he said, and then he waited. The next draft just started.
immediate. I was like the last one there.
Well, you got pick 12, so you got the sweet, sweet turn, Billy, and I got pick 2 this time, so I'll get me a Judge team in unless guy at pick 1 goes with Judge. So back to Jeremy's last team here. He went with Dylan Cease, Hunter Green, Schlittler, Rodon, Nola, Garrett Cole. He's got 3 Yankees pitchers, 2 of them with Rodon and Cole that are second half of the year plays. Pete Alonso, Jazz, Jordan Westberg, Will Smith, Adley, Burleson, with Judge, Teoscar, Caglione, Andy Pajes, Trent Grisham, Colton Cowser, and Nick Castellanos. There's the first one that I'm just taking none of is Nick Castellanos. But I don't think that you have the worst team ever. I think it's a pretty solid team, Jeremy. I can see where your outfield isn't the best, and that's probably why you're not feeling all that great. No Judge for me, by the way. Judge went 1, so Shohei it is.
I'm like so disappointed with this 12th pick. I mean, obviously everyone gets it, but like, it's so brutal. You miss out on kind of all the outfielders into tier 2, and then you're like, do I just do something creative, which I'm gonna do today, or do I just draft like what is the stock team? Um, yeah, I don't know. I guess annoying.
Pick 12 is rough.
It's rough.
Honestly, it is. There's so many different things you can do, but really whatever you do, it doesn't feel great. I mean, I've had that feeling in football so many times over the years, but this year in baseball, I'm right there. Because whenever I get pick 12, I'm like, man, how do I want to play it this time? Is it going to be Ellie and Rafael Devers again? Because that's what I feel like is always there for me.
Yeah, and the fun little like combo that I definitely feel like I was one of the earlier to try to do is Kurtz and Rooker, but I've definitely seen everyone post that on Twitter, so like that's not that really like unique anymore. And so like, do I do that or do I do something that is I'm a good bit more creative, which I'm also excited about. I think I might do the latter. Um,
Well, we're not going to have to wait long to find out what decision you make because you are up next, sir.
yeah, I'll do this kind of off the wall.
So we got Jeremy in this. He's pick 8 this time, the icon. Glad you're in this, Jeremy. Duggar says, Jack Cags, baby. Jeremy, Duggar is all aboard that Cags train. And TK11 says, drop Casty for a pitcher. If only you could drop someone after. That would be a nice thing. Oh, man. Have the mulligan button. So I see what you did here, Vlad and Gunner. I like that. See, so you did what I think it probably is the first time I've seen that combo. I don't specifically remember seeing someone do a Vlad Gunner combo. So you went really high upside. You pushed outfield, which people don't generally like to do, and it's not Jose Ramirez Ellie like what happens so often at the 12. So you've opened yourself up for 2 really good picks that give you the potential for diversification of your lineup moving forward. So I like it.
Yeah, Vlad's kind of a staple of that 1-2 turn. Has been for like several years now. Gunner was actually going higher than that last year, and has been it kind of fell in round 2 after a season of kind of playing through injury. So I think that there's a lot of potential with the bounce back for him. And then also, as you said, like you haven't seen that combo because unless you're gonna do something which everyone in like Twitter sphere is gonna say like you're an idiot for blowing up ADP and like giving up that much value, like you can't do it. Like I don't think that there's any world where you see that duo fall to you to Otani at 2-3 turn. Like you're not. That's not gonna happen.
It's not going to happen.
So if you want to do something like this, I feel actually kind of comfortable that this one isn't going to get covered by a better version. There's other builds I'm kind of working on right now that there are definitely better versions of it in the tournament. It's going to be super infrequent, but like this one is not getting duped by with a first rounder on top of it.
So like what you just said, there are better versions of those lineups. I think about that's something I think about all the time. Like right now, I have Otani. I think versus my own Otani teams versus other Otanis. What do you do with Otani to do something different? And it's hard because, I mean, like right here, unless I really want to go down and try to push something up, um, like this time, what I'm going to do is just actually go with ADP, and that's different for me because I don't take Churio very often. So for my own lineups, that's diversifying things, even though it was the top ADP play. And then um I do want to mix things up a little and take something that I know I've not done, and this is fun. I'm going to go with Junior Caminero. I'm going to push him up a little bit here and kind of do my own version of what we're talking about. And I know, at least for a fact for myself, I don't have a Shohei Otani and Caminero team. I'm sure there's probably some others out there, but it's the first one for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's there is making sure you have like the various combos within your portfolio is important too, on top of this kind of like unique combos. Um, like Otani's tough, right? Because as you said in the previous draft, like you could kind of fall your way into the Freddie bets kind of stack falling together, but when Kyle Tucker now in play, it doesn't really happen. You're not gonna have like Freddie fall and Betts fall, and it's so the sentiment around the team seems to be a little bit better. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah,
because now, like you just said, because of Tucker, whereas whenever I got it, I had it happen, Tucker was still a free agent. So whoever drafted Tucker later in the first round or at the turn, because remember, he used to go at the turn, not that long ago, Tucker did.
mhm.
Sometimes he went in the second round. But now those people that have him are going to want to stack. Okay, back to you, Billy.
Yeah, so I did that because I wanted to do this. Um,
Perfect.
yeah, so I set up this simple like two team stack going on right here. Um, that you have to be like super intentional to make it happen. Two guys in the second round, two guys in the fourth round, particularly in like flat tiers, like infielders in the end of tier one, kind of tier two, 1A, and then in the outfielders in this big flat tier as well. So like I don't feel like I gave up a ton to do this. I gained it's so much uniqueness that from here on out, like I'm just gonna draft like kind of like my staters and
Yeah. No, and personally I love it. Now that you have the two players from each team, which would be, like a pair, are you so you say as you move along you're going to kind of do whatever, are you going to try to mix in any Orioles and Blue Jays, or just see how it goes? You're not going to force it. You're just going to let the draft come to you.
this is the one that I want to force.
Okay.
The rest of it is going to be kind of like a slight natural boost, like kind of everyone else does. This was like, let's set up something intentional. I also always think that like, these guys are like pretty well linked top of the lineup kind of guys. Like,
Yeah.
there's all the Orioles. There's no. I mean, like, what is the perfect premium version of it is with Pete Alonso too, but like that doesn't fit in any way, shape, or form. Like the only way you would pull that off with Gunnar Henderson is like hopefully he falls late, and then you have Pete Alonso fall to you in three, and then Taylor Ward comes all the way back at the end of four. Feels pretty thin. So I don't know. You're not getting. You also couldn't do it with flat. So um, yeah, those are just like I think about this stuff way too much.
I'm right there with you, buddy. I know, but I appreciate that you do, because I love the way that you are always thinking that way, trying to think multiple steps ahead. And I am looking here now. The obvious thing is to pick Teoscar, but I think I'm going to mix things up again for myself. This is someone I have almost no shares of right now, which I think is a good thing. But I want to force a few more O'Neal Cruz into my life, as a just in case he's not a dumpster fire, because I mean he does have a lot of juice, but I'm at like maybe 1 or 2 shares out of my first 55 drafts. So he's a guy that I'm wanting to make sure that I force myself to click a few more times. And this is kind of the perfect time, considering I think I'm going to do kind of an unstacked different lineup, but I do like to kind of go away from stacks sometimes, because I do feel that the majority of drafters are primarily looking to stack people. So most Otani teams are going to want to have Dodgers pieces with them naturally. So if I can, occasionally, because I'm one of those now, naturally I want to have Dodgers pieces. But if I can occasionally mix it up and kind of unstack Otani, I'll do that. A question that I had last night from Bloomfield, and I was wondering what you thought about this. How many people from a team is too many to stack? And if you stack two teams like you have now, would you ever throw in a third, or is two teams the most you'll stack on a lineup?
Let me address this pick real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to do two in a row. Let me continue with extremely exciting infield and oatmeal outfield.
All right.
Yeah.
It is exciting and oatmeal. That's it. You nailed it.
Yeah. So the question was like, how much is too much
Yeah.
stacking?
First off, yeah. How much is too much from a
So
team?
I want to go to even something you said slightly before that. You said you think a lot of drafters stack. Like, I don't know if that's the case. That team people are aggressively stacking as much as you think. I think they aggressively stack in the circles that we run in for sure, and then in drafts that are on stream, people are going to stack more for sure. But like as you see the rest of the tournament fill out, the more casual drafters come into play, like kind of deal. Like I don't think people are getting to add stacks as much as you think. Um, I don't have a ton of data around that from recently, but I do think it's like when we've done it previously that was the kind of the outcome. So just wanted to kind of note
That's a
that.
good point. I think I was kind of meaning a little bit more. You're right. I am around the idea and the environment of stacking a lot.
Yeah,
uh,
we
but
have a show named about it. So like
right.
yeah. But so there's that, and then there's the so how much is too much? Um, I don't know. I think you still. I don't. I think I'm a believer that you still want like the premium players and the premium pieces. You don't like need to be dipping into the we don't ever really like dip into bad baseball players. Like you dip into bad football players, or maybe that bad's not the right term, but like people you don't expect any production from, and like you're hoping that they turn into this. You get lucky. Like you know enough ball that other people don't. Like in baseball, in these drafts, that's not the case. So like I don't think you want your stacks to push you into like bad plays or plays that like we know are not don't fit underdog very well. Um, but if you can kind of run it up to get like 4 or 5 players on a team and you're in the athletics and they're playing home for a bunch of it and they hit like they literally score double digit 3 out of 5 games, like having a what full on 5 or 6 players from a team could easily hit your lineup. So like I'm not gonna say no. I think it needs to be cost sensitive, and I think that it's you need to be like still targeting good players that fit our format. Does that make sense?
100%. And I'm so glad that you said that, because this is something that I've talked to Duggar about so much. And that's that I don't want to take the lesser player just to make a stack happen. Now, I'm not saying that I won't occasionally, because I'm a high volume drafter, that yeah, sometimes I am going to force a stack to happen just because I want to have a lineup go a certain way. But you are hurting your own portfolio if you are always looking to stack players and you're not just taking the better ones. So there's a lot to be said to just, maybe sometimes you just take the best players. And yeah, in baseball, even when we get all the way down to the end, we're almost always taking people that have jobs. Yeah, they may be platoon guys here and there, but they, like you said, they are knowns and they have jobs. Whereas with football, yeah, you get to the end and you're going to be drafting people that they might be the
The
fourth
running
running
back
back on
three,
the
they're
depth
like
chart. Yeah,
slightly out
and
starters.
they have no chance other than you're hoping for an injury or two above them to open up that opportunity come week 15. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's a completely different world there.
Yeah. So um, that's my thoughts on Stafford.
And then
Um,
the other
so
thing
I made a couple picks there because I'm still have not drafted a pitcher yet. So it'll be my
I
first
see
one.
that.
Will be this next pick. But to enhance the boringness, or to make my outfield a little less boring, Joe Adele, ceiling kind of play, and then Jacob Marcy, kind of somewhat unknown. Um, that's some people like, some people don't like. I'm on the side of liking him, but I can see the downside. So I think that the outfield and infield kind of, I love the juice that it's got.
Oh gosh, yes, and I am fully on board with the guys you took. So they're two of my higher owned players as well. I decided right at the beginning of draft season. I decided during last year that I was buying into Marcy. Like I watched him at the end of the season and I just decided I'm going to be a Marcy drafter next year, and I have. I drafted him my first Gladiator. I've been drafting him on a bunch of these already. So I'm right on board with you. I will take that gamble. It is a gamble because, yeah, we've only seen a month and a half worth of him in the majors, but I believed in that month and a half, and right now I'm going for it. And Joe
Yeah,
Adele, finally we got the Joe Adele hit last year after waiting forever. And I'm going to go ahead and grab Cags here. And but yeah, no, finally Joe Adele hit, and it was sweet. Now he's got a much higher price, but I'm still paying that higher price right with you.
yeah, and he's a perfect for this format kind of player. Someone who probably gets downweighted by his like, he doesn't fit the other formats of fantasy, so he's not going to get as much positive buzz as he would if you think about this game in a silo. So I'm a big fan of him. Jacob Marcy's the type of player who is like someone who played a ton of baseball. I like love the brand of baseball that he plays, and as you said, you're a fan of him. I like enjoy watching him play in his
Yeah.
highlights. I think he plays 110%. He's someone who, if I was a coach, I'm go play center field, 150 games, and see what we got. Go set the tone. Give me Jaron Duran light kind of energy, and it, it like just kind of like for an organization that hasn't always been like at the top. Like, give me some energy, please. Like, so like, I'm a, I, I would want to kind of run out there. So that's a lot of like my take with that. Um, yeah.
And now we're back to you.
Yeah, now I'm up. Take one guy who I need to take a bit more of in this range, and one guy who is like one of my stable picks. Sonny Gray, I've been just kind of hammering him a little bit this year. I think he's just like a good value. Boston still thinks he's got juice. So I think the team's going to get a bunch of wins this year. And then give me a rookie that, or a young guy that actually is pretty strong, like volume, like safety. In Nolan McLean. Like, I think that's one of our like frustrations with younger pitchers is they're not like entirely built up, and there's potential that they're gonna not get like if they're gonna be held back and they're not gonna get like full workload. I don't think that that's the situation here. I think they need him to throw as well as he's kind of wound up to do it. He's got the spot already, so I haven't drafted enough of him yet, but it's someone who I want to like tinker with a little bit more.
Well, I'm right there. I'm right with you again. Right with you again, Billy. Was with Nolan McLean especially. Now, I like Sonny Gray. I've not been hammering him. I don't have a ton. I'll mix him in, but Nolan McLean, he's a target. I love Nolan McLean, and the reason why everything you just said is the reason why I have almost no, or in the dingers, maybe no. I think I took my first share after I did my 50 review. Almost no Mizorowski or Chase Burns. And it's not that I don't recognize those two guys, young arm upside, but I just feel so much more confident in Nolan McLean and the quality of innings I'm going to get from him. And since they're going right around the same area of the drafts that you have to take them, I've just been consistently taking Nolan McLean time after time. And I, I watch pitching video or pitching ninja videos all the time throughout the year. I pretty much watch almost every day. I try to catch his new video. And Nolan McLean, he pops from a stuff on pitching ninja videos. I mean, you just watch him pitch and it's hard to not fall in love with him. Now, of course, Burns and Mizorowski do too, but McLean is just different to me.
Oh, I think I of the I think watching Burns is like so much fun. Oh my gosh! I think even as much to do with his stuff, which is elite, like the way he pitches with his middle finger up, and like I love that. So I think just like from like a raw fandom, I think that he's my favorite of that crew. But um, all very exciting. Schlittler is the also in that kind of same mold.
Mm-hmm.
Yesavage, you savage. How do you say it? Do you know?
You savage. Mm-hmm.
Savage. Um, he's kind of similar-ish, young. I just think McLean is the one who's like most solid.
Yeah. And Jeremy, he says he's got so much Burns and McLean. So he's right there too. We're not talking about Mizorowski. I wonder if Sheep's drafting him some Mizorowski. I'll ask him that on Tuesday and find out. But I recognize that Mizorowski and Burns are both, I would agree Burns more, but they're Mizorowski's on a better team and a better pitching environment than Burns is, so I guess there is that. But it's just I just am not taking them with the other names. It's just sort of where it falls. But I need to. This is my point. Just because I haven't doesn't mean I don't recognize I need to have some shares of these guys and some teams with those names on it because their upside is real.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're all kind of in the same mold. Kind of the you really have to, like leaning into a player take. Like hard to pick from one. I feel like it's, in general, like they're the same profile. Like, and if you're in on the profile, kind of just like spread it around them, all of them. Maybe be a little more weighted to one of them, but don't like just be wholly on one. Oh, damn it, Varsho left. That would have been that's disappointing. I feel like he would have fit too perfectly here. Mm, mm, I don't know.
Yep, Varsho at 129. So there's Schlittler. So talking about him, you add that profile again, both with the New York boys.
This is where it's like so.
Yeah, this is a tough spot because there's a lot of different ways you can go here. And you settled with Michael King.
Yeah. Um, I'll dip into outfield again later. There's a couple of names I'm like not opposed to as we move down the draft board. I just like didn't love where we're at. Jason Dominguez is just like I don't know. I don't think he's that good at baseball. Jungle Lee, I think he's not good for best ball. Like he's not going to hit double digit home runs. That's the thing. I'm in a ballpark that's like not good for. It's not a hitter's park. So like Dalen Lyle, kind of interested in, and kind of questionable that he has no power too. And he's what? So like, I don't know. And this is just again a range of outfielders that I'm inspired by.
So, one thing I will say with what you just said, Dalen Lyle, that is a guy that myself personally, I think everything that you said earlier about Jacob Marcy and watching him play and the style, like how balls out he is, the type of player, Dalen Lyle is that kind of guy too. Um, and I don't know if you got to see much of him. He was only the last couple weeks of the year last year, but he was a guy that once he came up, he immediately stood out to me because I loved his play style and I had never heard of him. And whenever there's someone who kind of comes out of nowhere, and you know what, I'm talking about it. We brought him up. We're talking about. I'm gonna go ahead and grab him. Um, whenever I've never heard of a guy, and I spend all off season every year working on spreadsheets and compiling lists of names and looking up prospects, and I go super deep because I'm doing these draft champions that go 750 players in the draft. So I'm going really deep, and I had never heard of Dalen Lyle, and then he came out of nowhere and immediately popped in my mind. Um, I'm going to grab here another one of these young arms who's going a little later that I also really like to take is Bubba Chandler, who we didn't get to see much of last year, but I think this is the year where he's going to be starting from the beginning, and hopefully I could get the same type of return as the Burns and McLean and Schlittlers. I think that Bubba has just as much of a good chance. He's just on probably a worse team or a worse chance for wins. Maybe not compared to Burns though. I would say that maybe I don't know. The Reds and Pirates are neither will be great.
Fair. Yeah, I mean, I just looked at Dalen Lyle's stats in like the Savant page, and it's better than I expected. I think I was more like watching his swing, and I love it. And it does hit the ball the other way up, like, with not hitting Casey with it that much. But I mean, 300 batting average. If you could, like kind of project out kind of plate appearances for a full season, probably somewhere to like 15 home runs, 15 stolen bases, totally functional.
Yeah,
Um,
that's reasonable. And I
yeah,
mean, obviously, I think there's upside on those numbers. I think 2020 is completely in the cards. Granted, I wouldn't bet on it, right? But I think that he could be there. But 15-15, I think is very reasonable expectations. All right, back around to you. You've got the 4-3-5 build. Great pick there. Talking about Christian Walker last night. Um, and Imai. Imai is one of my highest drafted pitchers as well. Do you think Christian Walker, if he gets traded, keeps about the same level of value? Or if he were to be traded to anywhere, wherever, whatever, do you want Christian Walker because of him being with Houston and the short left field?
it's.
Or period? It's just period. You like Christian Walker? Just wondering.
I think it's beneficial. I mean, I think he's just 25 to 30 home run hitter in any ballpark.
Yeah, so just period.
Um,
Hmm.
just period. He's a good first baseman, um, and he's a right-handed hitter. So someone's not going to trade for him to be like small side platoon.
Oh,
That doesn't make sense. So like I don't think that there's any like real like volume concern in that way. So I think that it's kind of a good click overall.
Yeah.
Oatmeal-y with some excitement.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, and I think that he was hurt last year. I don't remember exactly what his injury was, but I know he missed time. And I
Still
think
got
that there's
640 plate appearances.
did he have that many?
Yeah,
Um
27 home runs. Like you think about like him just being like lesser last year. I mean, he had 238 versus the 250 that was previously, but like still got to 27, 640 plate appearances. Like
it's still a
really
good
not that
season.
bad.
What I was getting at is I think that he could hit more homers this year than he did last year based off of, what we've seen in his past. So I think he's a good click too. Now, speaking of homers that could be a good click, Jeremy asked, "How do you like Murakami?" I'll let you answer that first. What do you think about Murakami?
Intrigued, very intrigued.
Hmm.
Because in this stage in the draft, I don't think you have to do a ton. And you don't. And the expectation is they're not going to be a part of the lineup that on a weekly basis that you're kind of like mixing in with your third third infielder kind of flex slot, and that's going to be kind of filled through a bunch of different guys. So I think Murakami's got like real individuals week ceiling with. I mean, some of those weeks probably have like literally drop a zero, but like that's fine. Um, I think that if there is like price increases, he's one that I don't want, but I'm fine with it now. Almost like if ever after ADP, give me all of that.
Yeah. Um, so I will tell you my thought on him. I was primarily staying away because whenever I was researching the Japanese import bats of Murakami and Akamoto, this was back at the beginning of November. There was all these red flags about Murakami and his batting average and his strikeout rate and how well he would do. And because I was drafting Roto out of the gates, I immediately, and he had a higher price, I immediately was leaning Akamoto for better batting average and a later price. And then that translated as we went into Underdog. And then, actually, let me let you pick and then I'll finish my thought. Who are you looking at?
I'm like pretty ticked that I didn't get Jordan back. Um, so I'm trying to figure this out on the fly. Um,
Loriano, and who was the other one? I missed it. Oh, Merrill Kelly.
yeah,
Yep.
innings. Give me
Innings.
innings.
Innings. That's right. Merrill Kelly. I wasn't looking at him a ton, and then once he re-signed with the Diamondbacks, I was like, Merrill Kelly, mix him in. He's
Dangerous.
now with Murakami. What I was going to say is, whenever I came on the show with you and Matthew on Stacking Dingers, where with the high volume drafters show a couple weeks ago, on that show, Murakami was brought up, and everyone on the show was really into him and talking about him, and it sort of clicked while we were talking. I'm like, yeah, he's a lot more valuable. He is someone who I want on Underdog. I had just sort of already kind of wrote him out of my mind from my roto mindset that I had to flip that switch and be like, oh, no, I need to be back at drafting Murakami. And I've settled at about a 15% clip is right around where I'm at with him. And I feel like that's a good solid percent owned number, where I'm not all in, but I feel good with right at a 15%. And I like Akamoto more still, but that's because I love the Blue Jays. He still goes quite a bit later. So Akamoto is still someone that I draft a lot of. It's just I'm a lot more into Murakami after doing that show with you guys than I was before.
Yeah, it just fits the format like pretty well. Um, and since all the like 99% of fantasy baseball content is for not this, um,
Yeah.
it's just gonna have negative buzz in general. and people, and so therefore probably a lot of people misapplied to this. Um, yeah,
But I'll tell you, all of the negative buzz could be completely negated for these guys as soon as the WBC starts, because if who we're talking
it's
about,
true.
and especially Akamoto, but Murakami in particular, if he comes out and crushes in the WBC and everyone's watching and sees that, oh man, I guarantee you we will see his price rise by a minimum of 1 to 3 rounds. Um, and I still think it's probably worth buying. When did Jeremy get him in this? He got him in round at pick 152 at pick round 13. I could see him moving up to the 120s, kind of like Varsho has. Like Varsho went at 129 tonight, and I was getting Varsho whenever I've been drafting this whole time. It's been around
Oh, I think it
150,
could go up to 100.
but I could see that 100. Yeah, man. I could
Like
absolutely, and
Bryce
that could happen
Curran,
soon.
Jackson Holiday, like why did they go ahead of him?
Yeah. So right now, I think that drafting him even more could be an interesting strategy to kind of hammer some more in now before any hype that might come from that potential. Because especially, and I said, so many eyeballs are going to be on the WBC, and most everyone who's going to not everyone, but most people who are going to be sitting here drafting baseball teams are going to be watching what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. I am. I would. I don't know how they would ever pull it off, like a WBC best ball. That'd be gangster.
Oh,
That'd be
bro, I
drafting
never
like
even thought about that. That would be
drafting
great.
people from like. So I. Let's see, what am I gonna do?
You just have to go all Americans in Japan because that's what's going to move to the finals. It'd be very much like doing playoff best ball for football, I would think. It'd be a similar type thing. It's just the legality of, I guess, all of these names from people from other countries that are not part of a players association or anything like that.
That's exactly it. Like, how would you do it? Um, but because it would be playoff best ball with this like very weird player pool. Um, it would with the player pool not known early. Like it would be very weird. But I don't know. I mean, they have WBC DFS, like standard DFS. So
Um,
it's got to be possible.
I would think it's possible, but yeah, if that were to happen, they would get
I
my
mean, it's
money.
not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
I
But
know it's not going to, but
it
it
would
would
be
be so
kind of
fun.
cool.
I think it's a great idea. And I had never had that thought. I never thought, oh, do a WBC best ball. Oh, I'm like, man, I would love that.
Yeah, I think that like talking about other sports, one that I'd be like, I don't watch any WNBA. I would watch some WNBA if they had WNBA basketball. I think that'd be cool.
You're a better man than me, bud, because I wouldn't.
I would draft it. I'd come up with my own projections and do something fun. It'd probably be way off base, but yeah. So I've set myself up to have to take infielders right now. Um, so I can break my pattern.
Well, and I am sitting here literally playing this game in my mind right now as to if I want to do an 8-6-6 or a 7-7-6. And let's see, does anything line up here in particular? Not necessarily. Okay, let's go ahead and grab Cade Horton. And then this is where, yeah, I just got to decide here. Do you do 8 pitcher builds very often? I don't
Yeah.
do them very often, but I do mix them in.
Some, I mean, like the standard is 7-7-6, but I do sometimes do 8-6-6 or 6-8-6. I will not do a 6-6-8. I don't want to do a 6-6-8 means I have missed on outfield, and that's just in general a bad draft. And if that's happened to me, I'll do a 767 and just kind of hope that I've actually gotten it right at that point, rather than just like draft a bad player that's not going to actually help me as much. Um, yeah, so
I only did a 668 once, and it was by accident because I got to the last round pick and I got autoed, and it turned out that
mhm.
way. It was going to be a 677. But yeah, I agree. I would never do 668. Um, do you ever do 875?
No,
No.
I understand the thesis behind it. I've not done it just because I am not that. I mean, this game is all a bunch of risk, but like, I don't know. I can't get myself to do it. Like, I just gonna stick to the principles that I know that work. And it's just like it's got a thinner build, so I'll pass. But I
Well,
do. I think it work. I think it'll work. Like if you just like jam in the best guys, and they stay healthy. But that's that part of and they stay healthy, which is really tough.
yeah, your sheet when we were looking at earlier of the builds, you noticed that 875 was not a high advance rate. The numbers say 875 doesn't work. All
Yeah,
right.
I think 875 is more functional, and like if you advance to the team with live players, so like acknowledge that if conditional happened, then that team is in a good spot because you have more pitching, you have the better infielders to fill up the flex, and that what that has said is your outfield is live. That's just a big if.
That's a
Um,
big if. Like if you have this super strong five outfielders on this team right now that you just drafted, and if you would have chose to stop at that and not take any more outfield, there's a chance that it could have worked because your first five outfielders are really good. But it only takes what? One guy to be a disappointment, one guy to be hurt, and now all of a sudden, if you advance, you're in the playoff weeks and you've got three outfielders that have to hit because you have no other options. So
or it's just like Jacob Marcy does actually see the minors for a moment, and Joe Adell is swinging and missing a lot, and one of my older outfielders is missing time. Ramon Laureano is going to hit the lineup and get me to the playoffs, maybe, rather than just taking zeros.
mhm.
So, yeah, it's just such a thinner way to build, and I'm just not building thin in January, even though I know I've only got like 15 minutes left of my time.
I was
Um,
going to say, yeah, we're not going to be able to say that for long. We're almost February. We're
yeah, but
squeaking out January right now.
yeah, maybe the odd build's coming soon, but yeah,
Well, Billy, that was super super fun. I had a great time drafting with you. If you wanted to, let's go through and take a look at your team.
yeah. I think
So
the first one I drafted, I think I liked better, but this one was also fun. I did some things at least we started right off the rip that I don't think anyone's gonna do
yeah,
right
so you went
off the bat.
776. The build, like we've talked about, being one of the most popular builds, and for not only advancing but for ourselves. And you waited at pitcher. You waited till 108 and went with Sonny McLean at 108 and 9. You then hammered pitcher again with Schlittler and King at 132, 133. And now all of a sudden you've got a solid four with two veterans, two young upside arms on good teams. And I really like what you did. You closed it out with Rasmussen, who the only thing I think that's even you could say potentially bad about him is maybe he doesn't go deep in games, but Rasmussen is an incredibly good pitcher in real life. And if he just can stretch out that one extra inning, you could all of a sudden see so many more wins. But he's just a quality pitcher. So you've got good pitching, you've got that unique combo that you started the draft with Toronto, Baltimore, and Vlad Gunner and Taylor Ward and Springer. I'm looking to see now if you added any more. You added Adley, and I know you said you wanted Varsho, and that didn't happen. Um, do you ever draft Akamoto, who I was talking about? Is that someone that's in your mix of people, or Are
Yeah,
you
I
not
was
really?
gonna do it if it came my way. It just he kind of like pretty sure he fell off the board 4 or 5 picks before me
I
when I
see,
was gonna do it at 200, 204, which
like
was
around
kind of
the
an
Adley pick.
yeah. I was gonna take Akamoto there, and then it would have been Adley and Akamoto was my hope at that turn, and I would have had like 2 3-man stacks, which I for both of those teams I like. Um,
And
so
I see
yeah, that's
you
gonna
got
happen.
this Houston little mini stack
Little
in
mini
there
thing
too.
going,
Hmm.
righty. Like hopefully it's like a right-handed. Like they face a couple lefties that week, and then you get 2 guys that can just hold over the um, Crawford boxes kind of vibe. Um, that was I don't know. I there in terms of stacking, talk about galaxy brain stacking. Last thing I'll send you off with is like I part of me like wants to stack and like the lefty bats on the same team and righty bats on the same team. So if they kind of because if they're all gonna be in the same matchup, right? Like the Yankees, for example. The Yankees, I like the idea of Bellinger, Jazz, Rice, and Grisham. Right? They're all lefties. If they all run into like a week where they're all like good matchups, I would expect all of them to be getting good, like be an advantageous matchup and getting the full volume. So like, why aren't when thinking about correlation for players on the team, does the fact that they are both the same, they're all the same handedness, increase the correlation? Is something I've sat in bed at night and wondered. Um, I should pull that data.
I love that, something you said in bed at night and wondered. That's so great.
Yeah,
And what a great point. And as much as I've thought about this, Billy, I never thought about stacking teams from a handedness perspective of lefty hitters or righty hitters. And if you run any data on that, I'll be very interested to
yeah,
hear, because I think that is extremely interesting. And
it's not illogical.
it's not illogical. It makes sense. It does. Now, does it make sense more from a daily perspective, or an individual matchup? Yeah, as opposed to from a seasonal aspect, maybe you could say that's the case. But
And I
I
would
think I
also,
think there's something there.
yeah, it could be, and it could also just end up being that the boost that you see is like 2%. And then the boost that I would do to my rankings would be more than what the actual real life boost would be, and then me considering it in my drafting is actually bad for me. So like, who knows? But it's again the things that I think about, and then find their way onto the show, and that's why I think that it's been a good. We're on a good run right now.
Absolutely, man. Well, Billy, thank you again so much for joining tonight. I had a blast drafting with you. Um, so how can people reach out to you?
Twitter, or Stacking Dingers, whether that's commenting on the YouTube stuff, joining, becoming a member, joining the Discord. Like I'm pretty open. Like you need anything, I'll just send you my full ranks or all the data that I have. Like I don't care. I'm here so that we build this up so that we can get even equivalent to like the NFL stuff or bigger. I think that I'm not concerned about having other people like get better at it. If they get better at it, that means they're going to enter more drafts. There's more opportunities for me to push my edge. So, um, yeah,
Absolutely.
whatever you need, if you're interested, just reach out to me. I'm down to collaborate.
Well, I love it, man. Well, thank you again so much. I had a great time. And everyone at home, remember, keep drafting. We'll see you next time.